Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels, occasionally I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, down in the basement. I apologize for being gone. I've been gone for the last 4 days. Trying to sell our house. We finally got an offer on it, and it's for exactly what we were asking, but we haven't closed yet, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes well. They still want to inspect it and all that stuff, so we'll see. But cross your fingers for us. Today we're going to check one out, another one from Most Amazing Top 10. I love this channel. This is called Top 10 Exorcisms in History Worse Than Emily Rose. Have you ever seen that movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose? It's really, really good. I really liked it a lot. A lot of it takes place in a courtroom, but it's real good though. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose is based off of the real exorcism of a young woman named Annalise Michel.
Yeah.
She was a devout Catholic woman who was possessed by 5 different demons. She would convulse and hallucinate randomly, and she claimed that demons were whispering in her ears. In the end, she underwent about 67 exorcisms. Some lasted up to 4 hours. That sounds pretty horrific, right? Well, there are a number of other individuals who have been possessed by even more demons and had worse exorcisms than Annalise. From a possessed woman that would vomit glass and nails to another that was possessed for 14 years. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video. Starting off this countdown, we have the Exorcism of Gottliebin Dittis. This is the name of a 28-year-old German woman who was said to be possessed.
Wow, she looks older than 28.
It all started when she began to experience paranormal activity going on in her house. Soon after the haunting started, she would slip in and out of these trance-like states. It took the priest 2 years before the demons were finally expelled from her body. So for 2 years, she was tortured by the demons inside of her. In fact, apparently she would vomit blood, glass, and nails. That sounds very painful. After a number of exorcisms, this woman was finally freed. It was revealed that she was being possessed by a widow who went crazy and murdered her family and then buried them in a field. Moving on to number 9, we have the Exorcism.
It's not a ghost that's possessing her. I think it's much more than that.
Of Gina. In 1990, a teenager from Florida by the name of Gina underwent an exorcism. In fact, her exorcism was broadcasted on the ABC network for millions of people to watch. In the end, 29 million people ended up tuning in. During the exorcism, Gina was strapped to a chair and tried to fight back a number of times. She would bark at the priest and yell out when he would press a cross against her forehead.
Oh, I therefore enjoin every unclean spirit, each devil, each partner of Satan.
As the prayers intensify, so do Gina's physical reactions. The team's doctor ties her arms and legs to the chair.
In the end, it was found that she was being possessed by a number of demonic spirits, including one named Zion and one named Minga. In our 8th spot today, we have the Exorcism of
I don't know why. That just gives me chills.
George Lukins. In 1788, a woman named Sarah Baber reported English tailor George Lukins to the church and begged them to help him. George's behavior was very alarming to her, and she knew he was possessed. He would go into these fits where he would scream and sing loudly in different voices. He would also make inhuman noises and sing church songs backwards. On Friday the 13th of that year, 7 priests performed an exorcism on George, during which he barked and growled. In the end, the 7 priests commanded the demons in George to leave. Thankfully, it worked. All of a sudden, George snapped out of the state and said, "Bless Jesus." He then recited a prayer, and they knew the demons were finally cast out of his body. Coming in at number 7, we have Clara Germaina Seeley. In 1906, a 16-year-old from South Africa, Clara Seeley, decided to make a pact with the devil, which obviously went wrong because she ended up getting possessed. During her possession, she would behave erratically, growl, speak in tongue, exhibit superhuman strength, and would even tear the clothes off of her own body. In fact, when the priests were performing the exorcism, the holy water they splashed on her would literally burn her skin, and she even levitated in front of 170 witnesses. Okay,
non-believers out there, How do you explain that if they're putting holy water on her and it actually starts to burn her skin? Is it just some kind of magic trick, or what's causing that?
In the end, a noxious smell left her body, and that's when she was freed from the demon that was possessing her. Moving on to number 6, we have Michael Taylor. Sadly, this exorcism did not end well for Michael or his family. It was 1974, and Michael was a 31-year-old father of 5 children and husband to Christine Taylor. Everything was going fine until one day he just snapped. He had a huge public outburst and started screaming at everyone and was being belligerent to his wife. According to a witness, she said, and I quote, "Suddenly I glanced at Mike and his whole features changed. He looked almost beast-like. He kept looking at me and there was a really wild look in his eyes. I knew that only the name of Jesus would save me, and I just started saying over and over again, Jesus. I firmly believe that I was only by calling on his name that I was not killed." Michael ended up undergoing a number of exorcisms. One night, a bunch of priests spent hours casting out 40 demons from him. They knew there were 3 more demons inside of him: murder, madness, and violence. But they were all exhausted, so they went home and planned to resume the following day. That night, he attacked and killed his wife. Police found him shortly after, wandering the streets covered in blood. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the possession of Julia. Now, this is a fairly recent case of possession. In 2008, a woman named Julia became possessed. Apparently, Julia was the queen of a satanic cult, and one night got attacked by a demon. Immediately, she knew she needed help and went to a local priest. But the priest was like, hell to the no, I'm not dealing with this. And so she reached out to a psychiatrist named Richard Gallagher. Gallagher then analyzed her behavior and knew she wasn't mentally ill, but was indeed possessed. During their meeting, items would fly off the shelves in his office, and Julia would speak in tongue and share intimate details about Richard that she couldn't have possibly known. When she did undergo her exorcism, she got very violent. She had super strength, she levitated, and changed the temperature in the room. That's insane. In our 4th spot, we have the exorcism of Laura. This is another fairly recent case of possession. Back in 2015, a woman named Laura from Argentina became possessed. In fact, her entire exorcism was filmed. During the exorcism, we could see Laura writhing in pain and contorting her body. She also screams a number of profanities and bangs her head on the ground. While the priests are trying to get the demons out of her, she screams "no" out loud in pain. The exorcism finally comes to an end when she begins crying and then falls backwards exhausted.
I want to see that
after all
whole
of this,
thing.
She was freed from the demons possessing her. In our 3rd spot, we have the exorcism of Rosa. In 2015, a man named Father Amorth took on the possession case of a...
There's a documentary about this guy. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it has his name in it, Father Amorth. And it's actually pretty good. It was directed by William Friedkin, actually, the guy who did The Exorcist.
woman named Rosa. Rosa was in her late 30s when weird things began to happen to her. She was acting different and would constantly have outbursts. Things got so bad that her family took her to see Father Amorth. He ended up performing 9 or more exorcisms on her. During the exorcisms, Rosa's body would throb. She would thrash violently, she would foam from the mouth, and she would try to attack the bystanders. She even would talk to the father in Latin when she didn't even speak the language. In the end, the exorcism was successful, and Father Amorth determined that the cause of her possession was due to a curse that her brother's girlfriend put on her. Both her brother and the girlfriend were members of a demonic cult, and the girlfriend was a witch. In our second spot today, we have Anna ECKLUND. ECKLUND. This is another very famous exorcism case. Anna ECKLUND was an American woman who in 1928 became possessed and underwent a number of exorcisms. During her exorcisms, things would happen like she would hiss or howl like an animal. She would float in the air, and whenever holy water would touch her skin, it would burn her skin right off. She would also climb up her bedroom walls and speak in tongues. This all started when she was 14 years old, but got worse as she got older. Now, the first exorcism took place when she was only 14, and it was a success, but only for a short period of time, because she became possessed again in 1928. After that, Anna underwent 30 exorcisms, but all of them failed. So they decided to send her to St. Joseph's Church in Iowa to see if they could get the demons out of her. While there, she apparently would throw up 20 to 30 times a day, and it reeked. It was so bad that nuns had to take 15-minute shifts with her, or else they would fall ill. In the end, it was discovered that Anna got possessed due to a curse that her father and her aunt put on her. How messed up
that's
is that?
really
Her
sweet.
aunt was apparently a witch that mixed potions in with her food that caused her to become possessed. And in our #1 spot today, we have Roland Doe.
Thanks, Daddy.
The case of Roland Doe is the true story that inspired the movie The Exorcist. It all began in the late 1940s in Washington, D.C. with a 13-year-old named Roland Doe. We don't actually know his last name, so they just gave him the last name Doe. Other people call him Ronald, so we don't even, that's not his real name. Anyways, the poor boy lost his Aunt Harriet, who he loved and shared a special connection to. Shortly after her death in 1949, Roland started to experience strange things. He would hear scratching coming from the floors and walls of his room, and things around him would move on their own. Roland's family began to worry about him, so they went to a local Catholic priest for help. They then decided to perform an exorcism on Roland. Upon doing so, Roland would convulse badly. He even managed to rip out a spring from the mattress that he was strapped down on. He then took the spring and slashed one of the priests with it. A few days later, scratches began to appear all over Roland's body. In fact, at one point, an X appeared scratched into his chest. Another thing they saw was a pitchfork-shaped pattern of red lines move across his body. The marking went from the boy's thigh and moved down to his ankle. The priest, after analyzing Roland, noticed a strange pattern in his behavior. During the day, he was calm and normal, but at night, he would get wild and scream and act belligerent. Every night, Roland would undergo an exorcism. It was believed that he was possessed by 10 demons. Finally, on April 18th in 1949, the priest managed to expel Satan from his body. They shouted at Satan, saying that St. Michael would battle him for Roland's soul. 7 minutes later, Roland came out of a trance and simply said, "He's gone." After that, everything seemingly went back to normal. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these exorcism possession case creeped you out the most. And
That kind of stuff, I find it really interesting, but I gotta admit, it does creep me out in a major, major way. What do you call cheese that isn't yours? Nacho cheese. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.